It's time for the Onyx News. Extraterrestrials, time anomalies, dimensions, remote viewing, UFOs, UAPs, and USOs, ghostly encounters, abductions, Bigfoot, and more. Your end of the week news source for everything unexplained. Here is your host for the Onyx News Podcast, Margie K.
Good evening and welcome to Onyx News. I'm your host, Margie K, and we have a fantastic show for you this evening. I do want to mention, please take a look at a special report that I am posting on YouTube shortly after this broadcast. And what you see here is a witness's drawing of a very strange UFO that he just recently saw in Kansas City North, and it's being investigated by MUFON. It's an extremely unusual case with a close encounter. So check that out. Also, one of the most recent books that Onyx Media has published is Incident in Varhina, Space Creatures in the South of Minos. This is a fantastic read. It is just recently published by Onyx Media, and I suggest that you check that out. It is at Amazon. Also, my most recent book is I co-authored with Violet Wisdom, of course, How to Research a Haunted House, and it is a one of a kind because you will not find anything else out there like it. So do check that out as well. My guest this evening is Ella LeBain. She is originally from New York City and was educated in Israel. She received a social sciences degree from the Biological Research Center of the Negev in 1979, a department of Ben Gurion University, where she was schooled in biblical Hebrew and science, and then went on to receive an astronomy degree from the Hayden Planetarium in New York City in 1988, where she began her serious study of cosmology. She spent 2 years working as a counselor and social worker, assisting missionaries in apartheid South Africa during the early 1980s. Her close encounters caused her to dig deeper into what has become a 45-year journey to get the truth about UFOs, aliens, ETs, gods, and angels, and how they all fit into our end time scenario. Welcome to the program, Ella.
Hi, Margie. Thanks for having me back. It's good to see you.
I'm so glad you could join me this evening, and you look wonderful, and I love your background. That's just perfect. You are a very busy lady. Let's go back to the very first time you had a close encounter. Can you explain what that was like?
Well, it was in the Negev desert in July of 1979, about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, broad daylight, heat of the summer. I wasn't under any influence. I was just reading and hanging out in the sun. And this being came out of the sunlight, walked towards me and said, "I am the Messiah, follow me." And I just was gobsmacked and disappeared. And I was 18 years old. So, that got me digging down rabbit holes. Who was he after I just graduated? And, I was raised Jewish, and Jews are not supposed to believe in Jesus, but he looked like Jesus. He didn't say he was Jesus. He just said he was the Messiah. So I had to find out who he was.
Okay. Well, so that was your first encounter. What has happened since then? What encounters have you had?
Well, I that was like the first awake encounter, like conscious. But, when I was 2 years old, I was getting abducted from my crib. And my parents used to talk about it. So that's how it stayed in my memory, because they used to find me upside down with nosebleeds. and the sheets were all bloody. So they used to like talk about it and complain, oh, they got to change the sheets again. And I would wake up with these little bumps and these little, like almost like little BB like implants. And so one thing led to another, to make a long story short. And when I finally realized that this was this ancient being, okay, who I'm connecting dots to in my present book, The Cosmic Slingshot, that's coming out this spring, that was recorded in the Bible as Melchizedek, who in Hebrew means the king of righteousness. But this was an enigmatic figure who had no genealogy. They didn't know where he came from, and there was no record of his death. He just kind of came and went and showed up at different times along the timeline. And so, long story short, I pieced this together and found out that Yeshua, who most English speakers know as Jesus, is the reincarnation of this ancient king. And so how that relates to my abductions was that he freed me from them. That's pretty much what happened, because I had no control over what was happening, especially as a 2-year-old. It lasted all the way up until my 30s and early 40s, and I had had enough of it. I was suffering from needle phobia and insomnia and sleep paralysis, all the classic things that happen to abductees, missing pregnancies. And I just couldn't find my way out of it. So I remembered my experience in the desert, reached out, and, if you're real, if you're there, then just save me, because I can't live with this anymore. It was affecting my life in a deleterious way. And so he did. And I'm done with the grays. So since then, I have seen Yeshua 7 times. And I had a near-death experience in 2010. And he showed up for me. First, I saw my parents. They were both deceased. I had lost my mother when I was 6, and then my father died in 2007. So I thought, oh my God, I must be dead, because I'd never seen them together since I was a child. And then he took my hand and we walked together, just him and I, on this like green, emerald green grass field with a bluebird sky, very simple. And just walked and talked. And he told me, at the time I was writing this book, my first book on who are the ETs and aliens, because I was doing these classes in Florida in the 90s, ETs, aliens, or angels. So I was putting all this research together. It got shelved because I had a baby, and then she got independent, and I went back to it. Anyway, he told me to rewrite my book with him in it. So I did, and it's turned into 7 books. And I'm kind of what they call a Venn diagram. You know that term?
Oh, yes.
So I'm like, I'm neither here or there. I got 1 foot here, 1 foot there, Yeah. And, but, life is a complex subject. It's multi-layered. We as human beings are multi-dimensional beings. So it's hard to kind of pigeonhole and say you're this or you're that, and you can't be this if you're going to be that, which is the stuff that I had to, endure from Jews, okay, because, oh, you can't believe in Jesus. Jews don't believe in Jesus. You're no longer Jewish. Or Christians who like say, oh, you can't believe in reincarnation, or you can't. First of all, reincarnation is an ancient core belief of Judaism. It's a Jewish concept. A lot of Christians think it's Hindu, but there it is right there in the Old Testament, all over the Bible. And then I found out that, the history, how the Bible got edited and what they did and why they did it, and how, one thing we can always count on, and that's human error. And so in the Nicene Council in 375 AD, they had these monks, and they were ordered by the Empress Theodora, who was married to Justinian, to take all the scriptures out of the Bible that related to reincarnation.
Mm-hmm.
She was so threatened by that because she was born a peasant, and she kind of worked her way up to Empress as a prostitute, and she wanted to be venerated as a goddess of Rome, like all the other pantheon of the goddesses. So it was a purely narcissistic motivation. So she pulled one of these monks out that had got kicked off of the council because they were arguing like how much of Jesus was the Son of God versus the Son of Man, you know, and she pulls him out, puts him on this board and says, you know, delete all these scriptures. So God only knows what he deleted, but again, he was only as good as, or they were only as good as their understanding and knowledge of Hebrew, and they left a bunch of stuff in. So there's like 24 scriptures plus the words, you know, which most Christian, Gentile, English speakers don't understand because the English Bible is not what there's a lot of mistranslations. There's a lot of misnomers, and they take all the names out and they just write titles like God and Lord. So when an English speaker is reading, they think it's all one God, but I prove it's a cast of characters. And so like they asked me, well, where's the word for reincarnation? It's like, well, reincarnation comes from Latin. Carne means flesh, but the word in Hebrew is kafakela. And it's written all over the Bible. It's like multiple times. So in this book that is coming out this spring, I'm pointing it out for those who need to know where it is, what it says, and the context as well, all the conversations about it. And it was just hidden all these years from Christians because they were told not to believe in it. They were told to reject it. And they were told by the Church of Rome, which was a manipulation, because they wanted to control the people. And they said, you got one life to live. You better get it right with the church. Otherwise you're going to hell.
Right. Yeah. Just change the narrative to control people the way you want them to act.
Yeah. So that's what I've uncovered here. And it's like a web. Like it goes into almost everything. Okay. Extraterrestrials, Nephilim, reincarnated seeds of Satan, the Bible calls it, the seeds of seed, meaning genetic seed, okay, on the earth, hybrids, okay, on the earth, and that's why we're this potpourri of all different types of humans, you know. And what I found interesting was Chaim Eshed. I'm sure you've heard of him, the retired Israeli space chief, who spoke to the Yedidot Achronot, which is kind of like the equivalent of the New York Times here in Israel. And that was back in 2020 when the whole world was kind of like under the spell of the pandemic, and you know, and he came pretty much 88 years old. What is it with these octogenarians where they feel they need to spill the beans? And he told them that, you know, that the United States and Israel were in working agreements with the Galactic Federation on Earth, and President Trump knew about it, and that they were sharing astronauts and bases on Mars. So this went like that, like everyone's under the pandemic and talking about all the COVID stuff. And this was like under the radar.
I remember seeing that, and then nothing after that.
Yes, that's right. And then, so the same journalists that he gave this interview to, they collaborated with him and they published a book. And it's only available in Hebrew. And so it's a little astrophysics and stuff, but it has like about 13 pages that he wrote about all the UFO crashes all around the world, okay, and in Israel and Russia, and the Magenta Italy crash that he wrote about, that David Grush told our U.S. Congress in 2023 about. And this was in his book, So a total corroboration there on the story, and how, you know, that it crashed in Magenta, Italy, and then the Germans came and retrieved everything, and then of course it ended up here, you know, with the Americans. So all of that fit. And what I found interesting was he talked about the Galactic Federation on Earth. And I'm sure, Margie, you've heard the term Galactic Federation many times, right? Galactic Federation of Worlds, the Galactic Federation of Light, and they have all these different phrases to it. But Hebrew is very specific. He was very specific about calling it that, a Galactic Federation on Earth, which got my attention because it's been my I've been postulating in my book series from chapter 1, book 1, that they're not like necessarily visitors from outer space. They're coming from inside the Earth. Okay. And I've been saying that for years. And so when he said that, that got my attention, because it's like, yeah, they're here. So of course they're going to be wanting to talk to the governments, especially those, you know, I mean, there's all kinds of key political things going on, but they're helping them with different technologies, because there's different groups of aliens and ETs that are not all on the same page. So they're in conflict. So they're helping Israel and America with technology to help fight against this draconian group. So that really kind of blew my mind.
Well, as a researcher, an investigator, I have discovered that throughout my entire life, I get new information constantly, and I change my mind a lot. And I change my observations, and awareness level just keeps going up and up. Do you think, has that happened to you? And do you think that's pretty typical of those of us who are here to spread messages and share the information?
Absolutely. And that's just called growth. And it's a very healthy thing. And thank God for that. Thank God you can look at something again a few years down the road and get a different perspective on it, or gather more information and see, thought it was this, but it's really that. You know, I mean, that's a sign of a healthy mind.
Good. I hope it's not the sign of an insane mind, because I'm sure you have been called crazy, as I have, over the years. Because you get to a certain point where you're like going over the edge, and you get so far away from let's say the common man, who doesn't have any of these experiences and cannot possibly understand what, you know, people like you are going through. Do you have much pushback, or do you feel like you're protected from that sort of situation?
Well, that's a good question. You know, I like to see myself as being grounded in truth. And I am a truth seeker. So that's always my goal when it comes to research, and also grounded in my ongoing, living, daily, intimate relationship with the living God, because it's not about me. And I can't really, I don't know how people get through this life with all the stuff going on, bombarded around us, without faith in something bigger than ourselves. So that holds me together. You know, I mean, I realize, you know, I've been called crazy. I've been rejected. I've been persecuted. I've been maligned. I've lost my family and friends and all that kind of stuff because of what I encountered and what I believe to be true. So my strength comes from God, really, you know, and God is vast, because God, it encompasses a hierarchy. He's got angels, and there's a lot of ETs on his side. And that's been my goal, is to discern between, you know, who are the good ones and who are the ones that are not on our side, or the ones who want to use us and abuse us and harvest our energies and steal our souls and our memories and all of that. So that led me down these rabbit holes of, you know, like I mean, when I have always known that reincarnation was real, because I had my own experiences from my own past lives. And, you know, I'm not afraid of death. And that's like another indication that you've lived before, because you know what's on the other side. And if you're walking with the king of the universe, and you have a relationship with God, there's nothing really to fear. There are worse things than death, I will tell you that. And we know that. Just go open up the news every day and all the horrible things that are going on the planet. So, you know, when I got down these rabbit holes, I went out to go like what you're saying, you start out with one thing, you end up with something else. I went out to just prove that this is in the Bible, just so that Christians can understand it, because they can't really understand end time prophecies fully without this piece. It's just a piece. It's a piece of knowledge. It's a piece of understanding. It's a piece of history. It's a piece of truth. And it fits perfectly. Okay. And there are so many end time prophecies that relate to reincarnation. So then when I'm going down this rabbit hole and trying to prove all this, you know, put it in writing, I come down this, you know, what the CIA did. Okay. And that blew my mind, that they have been studying this. They have put all this money into this in these two projects, the Gateway Project, which started in 1978 and went through the 80s and 90s. And they had all these top people working on it. And then they hired remote viewers to do Project Stargate, which started out, as you know, because you know all about this. You're a remote viewer. This Project Stargate started out to look at different locations, and the remote viewers were going into their space, and they were seeing other timelines.
Yeah.
Okay. So then the CIA they pieced this together with the Gateway Project, which they have all this information on. Okay, there's tons of stuff. Not all of it has been declassified. They're holding back on some pieces here.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. And then I started to say, well, this is a science. This is not like woo-woo beliefs or something that, oh, you know, it's like a religious or a religion or anything like that. This is a science. And that the fact that they've been looking at this and how consciousness can be transferred from one time to another, they thought, well, maybe we can use this, not just using remote viewers as psychic spies and psionics and all that's going on today, but maybe we can use them to go into the past and retrieve information that is relevant for now, like about weapons and other types of stuff.
Yeah.
So that blew my mind.
Well, it certainly would. And since you mentioned reincarnation, I must ask, have you reviewed some of your past lives? And I'm sure you have, what would be one of the most interesting ones you've taken a look at?
Well, that's a good question. So I shared it in my second book, Who is God, on this chapter on what happens after you die, because of what happened to me. So as a child, I didn't have like a normal childhood. I lost my mother when I was 6. Then my father, I was an only child. My father remarried. I ended up in a step family, a Jewish step family. And so my mother, you know, I went from like Catholic to Jewish. Okay. So there was a whole lot of,
wow.
Yeah, that's why I write about all this stuff, the Romans and all that, because they're the ones who started a lot of these problems. But I was having these recurring nightmares as a child while I was getting abducted. So I told you about the abductions with the Greys and the sleep paralysis. I was having these nightmares, and it was the same dream over and over and over again. I would be running across a field and end up in like some attic and hiding on these like raw mattresses. And then I would end up on this like big cruise, like not a luxury cruise ship, but like a freighter, squashed in between all these people. And then I would like wake up on the streets of New York City, where I was born, by the way, so maybe that was relevant, and end up again in the mattress in an attic in Macy's. And then I would wake up. And I was running for my life. And in the dream, I would see symbols, the Star of David, the six-pointed star, and a swastika. And they were always overlapping, one over the other. And I was always running away. So this went on all the way until I was 30. And I met my husband, and we went to this place in outside of Orlando, Florida, called Casa Dega. And it's a psychic community where just like a lot of psychics just like live there and hang out there, and you can go there and talk to them. And I'll never forget this man. His name was Ray. And the two of us, we weren't married at the time, we were just dating. And the two of us walked in, and he was like overwhelmed by the energy. He wouldn't even charge us for the reading. That's how he felt. And I didn't say anything. Okay. He just felt all this energy, and he accurately, like, blew my mind, read my past life, told me about that dream. Like, he was telling me, you were doing this, you were doing that, and you were running away from the Nazis. You were a child. They were injecting you with all these drugs, and you ended up dying when you got to New York. That freight train was me getting out of there and coming over with all the people who ended up, getting out of Europe, ended up in New York. So I was born in New York, but my father, he actually was a sergeant in World War II, and he fought. He was in the troop of that stormed the beaches of Normandy. He fought in the Battle of the Bulge. He survived. So that's my bloodline. My father, and so when he told me this, the dreams stopped. I never had that dream again because I'm somebody. I'm in that 10% of Americans that can't be hypnotized like by traditional methods.
Okay.
So I could not have accessed this through hypnosis. This had to be done with, someone else. And he picked up on it so accurately that the fact that it came to the surface and was conscious, and someone acknowledged this over me and to me, it just popped it. That was it. It was over.
Wow.
And then he saw my husband, and he saw that he was part of the resistance, and that he was one of the ones that helped all of these kids out. He opened up the gates. That's where we were running. We were running away from the Nazis, and he went against the orders, and they shot him in the head. And he had this indentation on the top of his forehead, even in this life.
That happens. You bring the energy of that sometimes with you. I see that a lot when I do readings of people. I'll see spears in their neck, or, if there's a major injury, that will stay in your energy field when you incarnate again. That's amazing. Yes. That is an amazing story, Ella. I really appreciate that. We are going to take a short break now, and we'll be back right after these messages.
Wonderful.
The Onyx Network presents a health and wellness spiritually based brand of hemp-derived CBD products made by Hopewell Farm in Harrogate, Tennessee. We apply our Cathara energy work with all of our plants and products. Our products made in small batches with only 2 ingredients of pure hemp, full-spectrum crude oil, and coconut-derived MCT oil. Third-party lab tested for potency and legal THC levels with 6 strengths of 1 ounce oil to choose from. Know what you're buying and get what you pay for from Hopewell Farm. Applied directly to a specific area, Hopewell Farm topical salve in 1 ounce and ½ ounce sizes, made with pure hemp crude oil, comfrey extract, and all natural natural ingredients. Find the Hopewell Farm link and coupon code on the Unnext Network website at unnextnetwork.com. That's unnextnetwork.com.
Tickets are now on sale for Rebels of Disclosure 2025, May 12th through the 15th in Grafton, Illinois at the beautiful Pierre Marquette Lodge and Conference Center. This will be a 4-day event with 12 speakers covering topics such as ET contact, experiencer testimonies, lost history, secret space programs, time travel, Illuminati, parallel realities, and so much more. Visit journeytotruth.online for more details.
The new book, How to Research a Haunted House by paranormal investigator Margie K. and professional researcher Violet Wisdom, is now available from Unnext Media. This one-of-a-kind book explains how to do research on a house with uncommon methods and resources used by historic home researchers, and how to determine who may be doing the haunting and why. How to research a haunted house can be used by homeowners, renters, investors, and it should be in the library of all professional paranormal investigators. Get this unique book at unnextmedia.com or amazon.com. That's unnextmedia.com or amazon.com.
Welcome back. I'm Margie K. This is Unnext News, and we are speaking with Ella LeBain tonight. Some fascinating stuff. I had never heard the story of your reincarnation event, one of them anyway, and that is just fascinating. I truly believe in reincarnation. I've gone back and taken a look at a number of my lives, and I do for other people as well. And I think that really is what makes us a whole person, because you can't have every experience in one lifetime. It just makes sense that you must have multiple lifetimes. How far back do you think this goes? Do we go back, to the beginning of time? How does that work?
Yeah, great question. Well, for me, it goes all the way back to Atlantis, because that's as far as I was able to go in my past lifetimes. But yeah, I mean, I think that this is a system that is, part of Earth lives, people who live on this planet for whatever reason we come here for. And there's multiple reasons. So like I was, one of the things in the book is like, people think immediately, there's like a knee-jerk reaction that if you get reincarnated, it means you're being punished for something, or you have to pay off some karma, or it's all about that. And that's a piece of it, but that's not the whole. There's a million and one reasons why people reincarnate. And I prove this in the book through the Bible, that even the avatars, the masters, reincarnate, not because they did something wrong, but because they have to come back to fix things or to show up at on a timeline and keep certain things going. Okay. And people think like what happened, 2000 years ago, for Christ, like, that it had to happen again. And not necessarily, because we're all in one like age right now, like the age of Pisces, which we're coming to the end of. And then there's the Kali Yuga, the bigger cycle. So like for every one of these cycles, these beings have come into our timeline multiple times to teach, to share, to be high priests, to be bridges between this world and the other worlds. So there's so many reasons, and unrequited love is another big one. You know, if you look at how many men die as young, teenagers or young men on battlefields, that they never get home to their wives, they never get to see their children born, they never get to fulfill their lives. So, God is a God of mercy. Like, he sends people back because he wants his souls that he created to be fulfilled. So if you die with an unfulfilled something, whatever it is, that's another reason for coming back. It's not all punishment or correction or karma, so it's so intricate. There's so much to it, and it's also been abused. I have to say that there's an alien force on this planet that has been taking advantage of that. Okay, so, and this is why this planet, Earth, has been called a prison planet. I mean, even Yeshua talked about that in the Gnostic Gospels, that he came to set the captives free. Who are the captives? That would be all the people living on Earth, to point a way out of this bondage that people get stuck in, the cycles of reincarnation where they can't, like it's like a broken record. You can't get out of it. And the good news is that there will be an end to the cycles of reincarnation on Earth. Well, there's two prophecies in the Bible that talk about that come from Christ himself, where he ends it. Okay, he ends it. And he also ends death. So if there's no death, there can't be reincarnation. So that's in the future. But, why we need this peace, it's a peace, it's not the be all and end all, is because it helps you to navigate your present life. Like just knowing, like what happened to me, for instance, like I had all these allergies. I would pass out at the side of a needle. For 25 years, I had needle phobia. And that was not just related to the alien abductions. It was related to what they did to me in a past life, where they were experimenting, the Mengele stuff, the experiment. The kids injecting them with all these drugs. So I go to the doctors here and I say, I'm not from this planet. Your drugs don't work on me here. And even though that's a joke, it's true, because I can't handle anything. I can't handle vaccinations and pharmaceuticals. And, I'm like one of those au naturel path people,
Oh, me too. I totally relate.
Yeah. So that's a reason. And once that came up, I overcame the fainting from needles, because I consciously went and volunteered to this study where they had to take my blood, and I had these two East Indian doctors talking to me, keeping me awake, talking to me about the stars, and I overcame it. So it shows that you can overcome this stuff, even though you're born with these phobias that are connected to past life traumas. So knowing that helped me to get healed of it. So that's a positive thing.
I've noticed something since 2021, when I do a lot of readings for people. Okay. Since 2021, nearly every single person that has come to me is advanced in their knowledge of spirituality and, the chakra systems, energy, vibration. And they're simply coming for a little boost, some advice, maybe a new direction to go. Are you finding also that there are a lot of people waking up right now, and that has been recent?
Yes, absolutely. And thank God for that. I mean, thank God I'm not the only one that knows this or this, or then we're talking to each other and we're creating even more, awareness and permission for people to understand and even research it for themselves. And yeah, we're in disclosure. I mean, we are in it. It's happening. And, whatever we thought or precognitive or whatever thought that, it was going to come from like the president standing on the lawn of the White House and giving a speech, this is a multi-layered process, and it's going to take some time, because we need to be able to have time to integrate all these different levels of knowings, of understandings, of new knowledge, of revelations. I mean, the word in like the book of Revelation, which in Greek is apocalypse. So people always think apocalypse means disaster. That doesn't mean that that's not included in it, but the word itself means revelation, which means disclosure. And we are living through it. So we're waking up from, the spells of the past and being kept in the dark, the true dark ages, because they kept people in the dark about stuff, and they persecuted and hung them and burned them alive and did all these horrible things because they knew the truth. Okay, so what I as a researcher examine is, what are they so threatened by? Why are communication with other beings, communication with God and the Holy Spirit and Mary and Yeshua and ETs, what are they so threatened by? Why did we as a planet, as a group, as a historical timeline have to go through that? And that's where we have to come out the other end in our disclosure process to not only heal from that, which we're healing now because people are waking up and coming, and understanding these things, but also get to be able to integrate and get ready for this next layer of it. Okay, because one thing I can say with certainty, based on the research and based on just the reality that we're living in, is that this is an ancient, it's rooted in this ancient cosmic battle over us and over the real estate, over Earth. Mm-hmm. So if we come in, we move through disclosure with that understanding, then we won't fall into the traps of getting deceived by so many of these beings that have been playing with us for a very long time. Mm-hmm. Okay, so like even with religion, like there's so many religions that are influenced by the aliens. And why is that? What are they getting? What do they want from us? And they want energy. The Monroe Institute, which got involved in the Gateway Project, the CIA worked with, like they came out with a word called loosh, okay, because they saw that that basically represents soul energies, memories, stuff that comes out of humans. And they saw that this was a thing. And the reptilians, the group of reptilians that live inside this planet, they harvest human energy. They are able to take memories from a human being, take them out of your mind, and implant them into a different being, whether it's a hybrid that they're creating or another human. Okay, and there's stories about all this. There was a movie, The Truth is Stranger Than Fiction. There was the movie back in the 80s called Total Recall. Do you remember that? With
yeah.
I mean, those concepts are put into these scripts, put into these movies for a reason, and they're purposely done. Because back in the 1950s, the Majestic 12, they knew that they had to control the information, but they also knew that it was the responsible thing to do was to help to prepare the public for this. So they allowed these concepts, they gave some of these concepts to film and TV writers and put them into the scripts so that this is what I call soft disclosure, because then people can watch it and have an understanding of it, get the concept at least, and not necessarily buy into it and say, oh, this is really happening. Those of us who are awake can connect the dots and say, oh, that's real.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Just for example, Star Trek.
Exactly.
From the 60s, the original one. All of those things are here now. Yes. And people are looking at that and going, hey, if that's true, what else could there be? And what other capabilities do we have and technologies do we have? Like the drone incursion we just had all over the United States. Yeah,
Right.
those were ours. Okay. But our planes could not shoot them down. It was a whole nother faction. But anyway, I digress.
No,
There
that's
is
good. It's true. You're right.
Please tell me what this is about.
Oh, well, that's my little motley crew of ETs, aliens, and angels that I kind of sketched. I'm not an artist, so I gave this to my illustrator, and he was able to translate what I saw and put it in. And all those beings are analyzed in great detail in my first book, Who's Who in the Cosmic Zoo, book 1. And I just put the 4th edition out last year, so it's all updated. So the back cover has this all colored and pretty. But you can see that, oh yeah, that's also part of that cover. There it is. That's it all.
There it is. Yeah. I recognize some of those beans.
I'm sure you do.
We'll have to have a chat about that. So you have, let's see, I'm going to go through these UFOs in the Bible.
Yes. The second book has all those scriptures that relates to spaceships. Like technology, Hebrew is a language of physics, so it's very technical. The books of Ezekiel are very technical.
Okay, and then Cosmic Slingshot.
This is coming out this spring. It will be released soon, and this is part of what I was telling you about. And so I'm proving, mainly to Christians, but anyone else, that this has been a Jewish concept, not a Hindu concept. That doesn't mean the Hindus don't have their own version of it. In fact, all the religions and all the cultures on the earth have always, forever believed in reincarnation. Only the Christians have a problem with it. And that's because of an implant that was put in on the timeline, 375 AD, from the Nicene Council, and they were told not to believe. They were told that they were anathema to Rome if they should believe in such heresies. So it's gone so far in indoctrination, brainwashing, actual spells, like magical spells that keep people blinded, so they can't see the truth, and that they can't even see it there in their own Bibles. So I just got tired of arguing with them. And I thought, and the Lord said to me, just put it all in one book, because every one of my books has a chapter about it. So like the first book, I have a chapter on what the reptilians do after when you die. If you belong to them, they process you, they strip you of all their stuff, and then they let you go through the slingshot. So the word cosmic slingshot is the English translation of the Hebrew word for reincarnation, which is kafakela, which literally means a cosmic slingshot. And it comes from the story of King David. And if you remember the famous story where he killed the giant with a slingshot.
Okay. Fascinating stuff. So you have 7 books, and are they all published now?
Well, the Cosmic Slingshot will be out probably in May. 6 books are available at the moment. Well, the first 6 of Who's Who in the Cosmic Zoo. Cosmic Slingshot is sort of a para book of Who's Who in the Cosmic Zoo. It's not like book 7. Book 7 is about disclosure, which I'm hopefully getting out by the end of the year. But I needed to do this first, because and all my experiences with all these people that sort of, negatively inspired me to put this book together. I feel like it's needed, and people need sort of a handbook, a reference book to help them in their own debates. And I encourage everybody to use my stuff and use it in their own debates, because it's research. So that's and a lot of research, I may say. You really
go into detail in your books and prove what you're saying. I think all of this information that you have produced and continue to do is very important. I think everybody really needs to take a look at it, because it's about what is truly happening. And people are waking up now. There people that I've seen in my own life who have been very left-brained, let's say, and not open to these things, are suddenly starting to see things. And of course, when Pentagon said, yeah, there are things out there that we don't know what they are, then that made it okay suddenly. Oh, hey, you were right all along. Wow. Amazing. And then maybe I can have my own experience, is what they say. Now they're ready for it. Do you think, generally speaking, that the world is ready for all of this information?
Yes and no. I think there's a growing group that is getting ready and very ready. And then there's another group of Luddites or Luddites, whatever you want to call them, that are stuck in cognitive dissonance and denial. And I'm also blaming the CIA for part of that, because they kind of specialized in gaslighting the American people for so long that they got people to believe that the lie is the truth and the truth is the lie. And that's a curse, you know? So you have people today that can't even get around the celebration of rescuing these astronauts from space, because they think the whole thing was fake, or it was, you know, staged or whatever. You know, I'm very big, because I'm a retired legal assistant and paralegal, and I'm very big on witnesses. And, you know, witnesses are legal evidence in a court of law. A witness testimony carries a lot of weight. So when you have like 11 space agencies, okay, and thousands of astronauts that have gone up and down into space, and not a single one of them has come back and said, hey, by the way, the Earth is flat. And yet you have all these people, they have all these people all over the internet saying this was a psychological operation. And you thought, why would they do such a thing? Why would they regress so far into medieval stuff? Because the Catholic Church used to say that, and they used to kill people if they went against them. Okay. Right. But then they came later and denounced it and renounced it and repented of it, and it's no longer their doctrine. Yet these are reincarnated ex-Catholics from medieval times that seem to believe this. So you think, why would the CIA allow this and put this out there? Because this was a psyop. Because it's a perfect cover, okay, to cover up the secret space program. Because if they believe nothing's coming or going, you can't get beyond the dome. They can't believe in extraterrestrials or secret space or any of that. And they can't, if they think the Earth is a pancake, then they can't get their head around that there's civilizations and cities and underground bases inside the Earth. Perfect cover. So you've got cognitive dissonance and denial, like on steroids, with this flat Earth stuff and moon deniers, and people can't come and go in space. Yet, meanwhile, they're on Mars. They've been there since the 80s. They're on the moon. Okay, I mean, you know, and all this is happening right under our noses. So if we're really ready for disclosure, then these people have to unravel and undo and get deprogrammed, okay, from all these false beliefs, because they're the ones holding people. This is the reason why we don't have full disclosure, because they can't handle it. They can't handle the truth.
Yeah, the CIA seems to have their hands in everything, especially social media. And I've noticed, you know, having a broadcasting network, they will come in and make these comments that it's always against whatever you believe, right? So, and they'll pretend like they're a normal human being, but you can just read right there. They were a plant, and they're everywhere. It's like, well,
they want to cast doubt.
Here's where all of our black ops money goes, to these idiots sitting behind a desk trying to undermine everybody who has an idea of the truth. Yeah, it's It's gotten a little bit insane. How can people get your books, Ella?
Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, well, thank you very much. I'm on Amazon, pretty much worldwide, paperback and Kindle, and then my website, who's who in the cosmiczoo.com. I only ship in the United States, but I also have PDF versions, and I can email them anywhere.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being on the program tonight. I could talk to you for hours.
Likewise. Thanks for having me.
All right. We'll be in touch. Thank you. All right. That is another edition of Onyx News, and I will see you here again next week. And yes, we do have a new format coming, but that will be probably about mid-April. I'll see you next week.